This morning we wake up to slightly negative cues, but you know what? The SGX Nifty has picked up from the lows, and in fact, a lot of markets in Asia are doing really well. So the Japanese market is in fact now up almost 2% odd. Let's see which way things go for us. We of course have had a couple of rough days. Let's invite our entire research team though to tell you about the list of top 10 stocks you need to watch out for, and there are plenty on our radar today. So Anuj, let me start with you. What are you looking at today?
Sonia, remember we were discussing Eveready some time back when that news on promoter stake sale had emerged. I just want to make one point very clear, especially from retail investors' point of view, that these stories will emerge for a lot of companies where you reach a point where it's very close to an important mark. Now, Eveready has fallen. It fell more than 60% from its peak. That is when the first time the news emerged of promoter stake sale. Has anything happened on that till now? I think nothing. So it happened every time the stock is approaching 200. Yesterday's low was 200, and then you had that rally. And what really got me interesting is if you see the delivery data, yesterday was 14.5 lakh shares marked for delivery on the NSE versus an average of 69,500. Now, this is a lot of pickup and delivery volume. This is not a normal. And if it was say 1.5 lakh versus 69,000, 2.5 lakh versus 69,000, even that would have been a lot. 14.5 lakh shares got delivered versus average of 69,500. Promoter holding is 44%, out of which 45% is pledged. Yeah. But to cut a long story short, there's a good chance that my analysis might be wrong, and there's a good chance that the stock perhaps has a rally today. But if you buy into this rally, and 3 months down the line, if you're left holding a stock at say 215, 220, and the price on the screen shows you 180, 185, you have absolutely no reason to blame anyone other than you. So let's just be a bit cautious. A lot of these stories, we saw with Z how a lot of stories about promoter stake sales started to emerge when the stock was very close to 400, because 400 was that mark where promoter pledges, it was clear that would be sold into the market. We've seen it even with ADAG, how a lot of stories would emerge very close to the mark, which is close to 52-week lows. So stocks closer to 52-week lows where the promoter holding is highly pledged, you have to be extremely cautious approaching these stocks.
Absolutely. That point taken with both hands, Anuj. And what a wealth destroyer. This one has also been 45-50% down already on the year. Let's see if there's any truth to all this talk of major international companies coming in for Eveready. Anyway, that's one stock in focus. Let's move to the next one. Speaking of stocks relating with the automotive sector, Eicher Motors, Sonia, now yesterday when we were discussing the numbers with you, it seemed at least Q3 is in line. Yeah. But then came the clincher, right? And it's not good news.
Not good news at all. In fact, I expect the stock to be under pressure today. That's because the company has cut down their production guidance for FY19. They've lowered it to 870 to 880,000 units versus 925,000 units that they had cited earlier. Now, there are two key reasons for this. One is demand pressures, and two is that there's a big production loss of 30,000 units that they faced because of the strike at the Oragadam plant. So it's been a double whammy of sorts for them. Not just that, at the conference call yesterday, they did mention that they expect a loss of 1,000 units per month due to the continuing weak demand in the Kerala region. In fact, because of the price increase they had to take due to transitioning to the new ABS norms, the anti-braking system norms, because of that, they that impacted demand quite a bit. The bike costs went up by 20 to 25,000 rupees per unit, and that has impacted demand. There's also been a decline in walk-in inquiries in some regions, and dealer inventory is now still high. It's less than 2 weeks though, but it's still at the higher level. So I expect the stock to be under pressure today.
Okay, so I expect stock to be under pressure. That's Eicher Motors. Of course, it's corrected a lot. Its high was, 36,000. It's corrected a lot, but over the last few days, been some kind of bottom formation. Let's see if that holds or not. Nimesh broke the story late evening on Sooty stake sale in Axis Bank, and that got confirmed, Nimesh.
Yes, Anuj, this is the most anticipated news after the budget announcement that probably the Sooty stake in Axis Bank will come. And finally, it's come last evening. So, interestingly, it's not a block deal, it's an OFS, which means, even the retail will get a chance to participate in this block deal. The Sooty is selling close to 3% stake. They own close to 10%, 9.6% to be precise. So, they're selling 1/3 of what they own right now. And what the government will garner through this sale would be close to 5,500 crores. My sense is, there will be a good demand from the institutional side as well as I think retail will will look to latch into it. So maybe for the time being, the stock could bottom out simply because after this particular OFS, the street is not expecting any further sale from Sooty, at least for the next couple of quarters. So watch out for this, but I think it's a good move because it gives participation to institutional as well as retail investors.
For a change, I think we have to compliment the government for getting the timing right, Nimesh, on this one, because there's a lot of demand for corporate banks. I mean, the tide has really turned. It's in their favor. Axis is pretty much sitting at its 52-week highs right now. So let's see how this one goes. But coming down to more stocks, Ekta, you're watching out for Indoco. What's happening here?
Well, both Indoco as well as Cipla would be in focus. Cipla as well as Indoco, we've managed to access the Form 483s which have been issued to both these companies for some of their plants in Goa. Now, I'll start with Cipla, which is actually more important considering the importance of the Goa facility for them. They were issued around 6 observations, and this was inspected in Jan of 2019, which is just last month. A couple of the observations, according to experts that I've spoken to, have said that they're rather procedural in nature and might take a little longer to resolve, but it should not be a problem for Cipla. And separately, Indoco also was issued around 6 observations for their Unit 1 in Goa, inspected in Jan, and that too is an oral solid dosage formulation facility. Looks a little tough according to experts. I've also managed to just access the Lupin 483, so I just want to point out for their Goa facility, which is under warning letter, received 2 observations. As of now, doesn't look too critical for Goa at this point in time for Lupin.
Okay. Ekta, thanks a lot for that. Amara Raja, it's been a weak stock, but the numbers, Sonia?
Well, unimpressive. The revenue growth was 9%. The expectation was 12%. So in that sense, it's lower than expectations. Both Amara and Exide have done a 9% revenue growth. So it's actually single-digit growth. Things have slowed down quite a bit. Margins were in line with expectations. They were slightly higher because, a 130 basis points up move quarter on quarter because of the fall in lead prices. So that was expected. And finally, the profit after tax was actually down almost about 3% at 131 crores. So unimpressive numbers, you'd have to say. If you look at the breakup, the auto segment is growing well. It's the industrial segment that continues to be a drag for Amara Raja Batteries. So let's see. I expect the stock to be mildly in the red because there's really no growth that you're seeing in top line. It's in single digit there.
Okay, let's see how the stock reacts today. Rima, persistent numbers?
Well, Anuj, no numbers, but here the company has announced a new CEO. So Christopher O'Connor will be the CEO designate. He will take the mantle from Dr. Anand Deshpande, who's currently the founder, MD, as well as the CEO chairman. Now, Christopher O'Connor is an IBM old hand. He's been with the company for more than a decade. He's got experience in the engineering side. He was a Persistent customer for the last 10 years. Now, what it means for Persistent, it means that the company strengthens its engineering business, and which is about 40% of the overall revenues. And secondly, it tightens its relationship with IBM, which is also another 20% of the overall revenues. But now these two were anyway the strong points for Persistent. Where Persistent system was lagging, which is why it's been an underperformer, was its presence in IT services, namely digital. So when the company announced that they're looking for a new CEO to take over from Anand Deshpande, the sense in the street was that they will hire a sales guy to ramp up their IT services business, which is lagging. So their pivot to enterprise IT, which the company has been talking about, now falls further behind. So in that sense, it's a bit of a disappointment. They're playing to their strength of engineering, but it's not going to do too much to revive their flagging their IT services business. Back to you.
Okay, Rima, thanks a lot for that. But there were plenty of other numbers that came in post-market hours yesterday. Sonal is here to give us that list. Hi, Sonal. Good morning.
Good morning, Sonia. Well, I have a long list, and I'll start with GNFC. The numbers did not look good there, and weakness was led both by the fertilizer and the chemical segment. Looks like the decline in TDI prices is impacting the revenues. The EBITDA also declined around 81% on a year-on-year basis. On the other hand, PI Industries reported good set of numbers. The operating profit margins increased by 150 basis points. The export growth was strong at 40%. Domestic markets also grew by 9% despite soft demand. ITT Cementation, decent set of numbers. EBITDA growth of 9% and margins at 13.3% should give some support to the stock. And Vidya Telelinks, that was a strong quarter this time around. Net profit was up around 127%. EBITDA margins also improved significantly to 15.6%. Corporation Bank, on the other hand, did not do so well. Yields are under pressure, leading to poor NII. Operationally, it was a weak quarter. The NII declined around 10.5% sequentially. Expect that stock to see some red. Andhra Bank also 6th consecutive quarter of net loss. PNL is very weak. In last 6 quarters, the loss is around 5,000 crores for the bank. Expect the stock to be in red today.
Okay, big losses coming in there for many of these PSU banks. Thanks, Sonal, for that. Here's a quick recap of our top stocks. Stocks with positive news flow this morning. You have Axis Bank, PI Industries, ITD Cementation and Vindhya Telelinks. While stocks with negative news flow this morning, Eicher Motors, Amara Raja Batteries, Everready, Cipla, Indoco Remedies, Persistent Systems, GNFC, Corporation Bank and Andhra Bank.